Welcome, welcome, Modern Sage family. Let me do that again. Welcome, welcome, Modern Sage family. I am so looking forward to this conversation. Candace is back with me today, and I couldn't be more excited about this conversation. So don't miss out. You're gonna love it. So let's just get started. Are you searching? Are you looking for something new, something different? Are you being called to your ancestral roots? The Modern Sages podcast is a tribe of women that believe in exploring beyond the broken constructs of society. We believe in empowering women to embrace the medicine within, all with an open mind, baby. As always, we love talking about herbs and all things that Pachamama has for us. So today, actually, we wanted to talk about birch. So at this herb shop that I have been working at a couple days a week, there is this phenomenal headache blend, and Candace has been obsessed with it.
Obsessed. Yes. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called the headache formula, and no, it's a headache blend. And it is a combination of lavender and birch oil. And I haven't at that point, I hadn't done a lot of studying around birch. But I used it when I was struggling with a headache, and the effects of using this oil was immediate. I also used it during my moon time. I rubbed it on my lower belly, and immediately when I rubbed it on my skin, I felt relief. So I was a firm believer from the moment I started using it, this combination, and started researching more into the healing qualities of birch. And of course, it's extensive. It's amazing, the history and all the different things that you can use it for. What were some of the things that you found out, Jenn?
Well, even in this, my
On your
go-to
end?
book, it says that the American Indians use birch bark to make a tea to help relieve headaches. So, of course, it's in the headache blend. Some tribes brewed a tea from the leaves and dried bark for fevers, kidney stones, and abdominal cramps caused by gas in digestive system, which also you can use it. Like it's so funny that you even intuitively were like, oh, I'm going to put this on my stomach for my moon time. And it just like helping relieve that sense of all of it. I just think it's
Yes.
so freaking powerful. Like,
Oh,
what? Amazing.
yes. And I watched this medicine woman on YouTube talking about how the Native Americans use the birch in order to make the tea. And you take off, it's like a paper, it kind of peels off. And of course, we don't want to wisecraft this. We don't want to just go around peeling off barks from trees. It's actually not super good for them, but it naturally falls off on the ground. So you can wisecraft it a lot of the time on the ground, or there'll be a piece of the branch that's broken off, and you can wisecraft the ones that have fallen to the ground. So I always would go there first, instead of peeling and cutting away directly at the tree if possible. But what she was showing is that she calls it silking, which I thought was really cool. She'd take the knife and she would drag the very top layer, and she'd say, now look, do you see the orange color that is inside the bark? She goes, that's where the medicine is. It's the orange
Wow.
that's inside of the bark. So they would take it, pieces off of it, and they would moisten it, and they would put it on wounds to help
Yes.
with all kinds of wounds, because
Bruises,
there's
scrapes.
yeah, and I guess that there are medicinal qualities within the birch that actually help get rid of the dead skin and the bacteria, and then stimulate new skin growth in a quicker rate. So by putting it on your skin, it does that. And then they would also boil it, and then they would make a tea out of it, and it's like an orange tea, and it has a wintergreen flavor. It's actually wonderful to taste, which I thought again is just
Phenomenal.
amazing. And then we did more research and come to find out that's where they get the wintergreen flavoring is from birch
Who knew?
oil, and also aspirin. When people make aspirin, they're actually coming from that as well. So they're using birch. So I just thought that was incredible. I mean, there's just layers upon layers, but it was really
Right.
fun to see the medicine woman like show, by
How it
taking
was
that bark off and
made.
saying, you see that? That is the
Yeah.
medicine,
That is so
really cool.
beautiful. It just shows that like Mother Earth has so much, even to relieve of headaches. It's just it's so powerful. I love Mother Earth.
I know. Oh, I was thinking earlier, the other thing that was a natural painkiller was willow. Wasn't it willow
Willow
bark?
bark, yeah.
That is also good for headaches.
And feverfew.
Mm-hmm.
Feverfew is really good for headaches as well to break up any blockages there as well. Kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
But man, oh, and also Carrie, she made us this amazing neck pillow at our
Yes.
cacao ceremony and gave them to us. Well, she made it before the cacao ceremony, but she gave them to us as gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And that day that I had the headache, I sprinkled this headache blend on that neck pillow after I warmed it up in the microwave for 3 minutes to warm it up. So I had
Yeah.
warmed it up for 3 minutes and then I sprinkled this on and then I put that around my neck and the back.
Oh,
It was incredible.
I
It was
bet.
incredible. Yeah.
I love using
Yeah.
her stuff too. Like I have that meditation one and I have two of them that I actually keep in the freezer. And then when I
Oh,
do my
yeah.
daily meditation, I am obsessed with juniper oil and I'll put the juniper on and then I put this cold patch on my eyes and it is my favorite
Mm.
thing to do in the day. It's so amazing.
Oh,
So,
that would be, yes, that
yeah.
sounds awesome. What a great
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yes. We
But
can
we should
talk
make
about,
sure we put the link to this oil
uh-huh.
on the podcast so people can get it if they want, because I swear it is so good.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds perfect. Will
Yeah.
you just make sure that your mic is all the way connected, that everything's in? It's kind of like clicking a little bit, and I don't know if it's because it's not fully in.
Last time I had to pull it
Oh,
all the way to my face.
that
That might
sounds
be what
like
it is.
that sounds
Because the
like
little mount is kind of broken. So that might be what it is.
oh, like that sounds really good.
Low. I probably just have.
You can keep it low if you want. It's fine. It just was kind of doing like a clicking sound.
Okay. Yes.
Oh no, that sounds like 1,000 times better. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect,
Awesome.
perfect. Awesome. Well, Candace, I'm really excited today to talk about, okay, the word is reciprocity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. Okay.
Yes.
So, as we were discussing what we wanted to talk about in this podcast and moving forward, we really felt like drawing into reciprocity was something that really stuck out to both of us. And I feel as though when we are diving in and stepping into our unique medicine, we're going to have these layers of lessons to learn, and it's almost like this space of deepening these wisdom truths that really can help guide us and help bring more understanding and peace and abundance in our space. And I feel like reciprocity is one of those lessons that we learn kind of like over and over
Yes.
in different ways. And the more that we're aware of it, it deepens and it grows and it's more defined. So, how would you, let's go ahead and just get started. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, so true. This is core to shamanic wisdom teachings. It has to do with our relationship and the energy exchange that we have with Pachamama, that we have with the ancestors of our land. It even goes to the soul of our homes, and
Mm,
connecting in with the soul of the home that we live in. What I love about this approach and way to live is that it really shifts our perspective about how we engage with life, because our society, the way we've been conditioned as human beings at this time in this modern age, is we've been conditioned to be consumers. We have consumer society where it's like, what is in it for me? And it doesn't just get expressed through materialism, through, what does this job have for, what's in it for me? What's in it for me as far as this circumstance, these people, these places? It extends to all areas of our life. We become takers as opposed to really reflecting on the laws of the universe, which are you get what you give.
Mm-hmm.
There is an energy exchange happening all of the time. And you see this in a lot of relationships as well. It's not just reflected in the way that we treat our planet, but it's also reflected in the way that we treat each other. It's almost like, what's in it for me in this relationship? Am I really getting something out of this person? And if I don't really feel like this person is raising my frequency, or I'm not getting something out of this person, then that person is perceived as something bad or lowering frequency, and you need to remove yourself from the energy. And I'm seeing a lot of that expression, especially in the new age movements of the 90s and on. But reciprocity brings it back to the core truth that we are in relationship to everything, that there is consciousness in everything, and that we get what we give in our life. So this is, of course, reflected in, how we do sacred ceremony, how we always give offerings of love to Pachamama for all the things that she gives to us every day that we don't recognize. There are ordinary miracles happening every second of every day, just like Sarah McLachlan, that song, Ordinary Miracle. But it's so true. There are ordinary miracles happening every second of every day that go unnoticed. So when we give Aini or beauty offerings to Pachamama, it's a way that we validate that we say we recognize the beauty that you give to us every day, or that we do a tree planting ceremony, or we plant flowers, or we give offerings of some kind to the animals, to nature.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an act of love, and it is an act of reciprocity, because it's understanding and validating this give and take energy, that you're not just here to take, you are here to be a steward of the planet, not to be a taker of this planet, a consumer.
Absolutely.
So I felt this is a really important conversation to have, because there's many layers to this, which we'll talk about during this podcast, but
there are.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to look over. I have this book called The Anatomy of the Spirit by Caroline Myss, which, by the way, is freaking phenomenal. And it's also so in depth that it's almost like you have to take a page and dissect the page before moving forward. And I just have all of these notes just in all of these pages, but she really relates our chakras to the sacred. So let me look this up. She relates this to the sacred ceremonies in Christianity, as well as the connection to the Judaism and like their tree of life kind of a thing. But in the space I'm trying to find this is essentially she talks about also being able to, she mentions tithing as a principle.
Yes.
And how that's connected to our chakras, and how it's, I believe it's connected to the heart chakra, which is what I'm looking into this space for, just trying to find the words of it. But it was all about the sense of like people give tithing, and a lot of times, yes, it's the act of giving tithing, but it's also the act of surrendering our physical wants, our physical desires into a spiritual practice. So it's putting our spirit before our physical body. And there are people who really believe in giving tithing to their church, right? And there are people who are like, well, I don't want to give it to my church, but I want to give it to a different foundation, or I want to give this percentage of my money or donate it into this cause. And then we see a return in advance. We see
Yes.
this return back, and people will see it with church. They'll see it with different kinds of communities that they serve or different organizations. And ultimately, it's the act of putting ourself, our physical needs, what is our most primal desire here, and letting our
Yes.
spirit guide, trusting in spirit, trusting that God's going to get our back and that we are giving. And then, of course, people receive and respond, but it's not all about receiving, but it's that same energy as you give, so you receive, but in different ways. It doesn't have to be financially receiving that back. But I was just trying to find the paragraph of this because the way that she worded it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never even thought about it that way. And it was seriously so
So
powerful.
true.
Yeah.
So true, because it's opening that energy of receiving and flow. If you want to draw in more money, not that you have to spend all your money, but if you give money with gratitude, which opens up the receiving aspect of the heart chakra, it opens up that flow of abundance and prosperity in our lives. And there's so many people that have testimony over tithing because they're like, gosh, it's amazing. It's like, I didn't think I could really afford it, and it was really tight, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, and I was angry about it. But then when I finally understood that if I can give this energy, or if I can give this money out of gratitude and service, knowing that it opens up the flow of abundance in everybody's lives that it comes into contact with, I started to notice shifts and changes in my life. And I noticed I
Mm-hmm.
started to receive more money. I noticed even with me, for readings and sessions that I do with people, I will give out free sessions and readings
Mm-hmm.
because I trust in the flow of the universe, that if I serve, that if I give, then the more than enough will come my way. And that's exactly what happens every single time. I always receive
Absolutely.
double of that which I gave. And so being able to release that and trust in that flow to move through us, this is why service is so, so important, why gratitude is so, so important, because it's that similar energy of reciprocity. It's understanding that you are in relationship to everything and everyone around you, including your creator, including the energy of abundance and prosperity. You're connected to that too.
Yeah.
All you have to do is align with it, and to allow that energy to move through in proper balance and relationship.
And
I'm so glad you brought
yeah.
that up. It's so important.
And I think also I'm still listening, but I'm also, oh, okay, this is in the energy of money. Okay. Um, okay, so can I just read a little bit of this?
Yes, please.
This is seriously so good. We should understand that we have linked money and faith. The wisest relationship we can have with money is to see it as a substance that faith can attract into our lives. Putting faith before money reduces money from its status as the leader to a servant. Its more appropriate position. Faith that transcends money frees a person to follow his or her intuitive guidance without giving over unnecessary authority to financial concerns. And I put here,
Yes.
wow, it is energy putting money. Wait, wow, it is the energy of putting money that is the highest priority. And then I put like hashtag mind blown. I was like, that makes so much sense. It's like putting that out. It's like putting your spirit above what we value so much in life. And so I think that same space of like giving and receiving is there is a balance too, right? Is because that was one thing that I really struggled with stepping into mediumship is for a while I was doing free readings or, if you wanted to contribute like a love donation, then that was a thing. And I think that there's this healthy balance in between the two as
Yes.
well because I think there's a lot of fear around money, especially around spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
money. And there's a lot of shame about it. But there's also a sense of like still needing to attend for your own physical needs. So
Yes.
there's this balance. And so I even do the
Yes.
same thing where, with every session, I kind of sit with it and sometimes I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. This session
Yes.
was completely just a gift. And they might not even be aware of that. That's going to happen. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, I just know I need to give this. And so I'll just set it up and do that. And then there are
Mhm.
times where it's also like, man, I also know that money is an energy. And sometimes people feel awkward if they don't give in exchange. Sometimes
Yes, and
people
then
would
they
be
aren't
like,
able to receive.
yes,
Hmm.
or they're like, man, I really want to send other people to you, but I feel awkward because I wasn't able to give back. And so it can create this buffer of space as well. So I don't know, there's a balance between all of that as well. And so I think like trusting your
Yes.
intuition is such a powerful aspect of it that I don't know, I feel like we need to address that too.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And that's so true. You know, I think that everyone who is a healer will cross that particular bridge at some point. I
Hmm.
feel like it's even a certain expression of the witch wound because,
Yeah,
it's like, okay, if I just give it for free, it somehow makes it more sacred and divine than if I charge for it. But in actuality, the people who are receiving the information don't always receive what they could from the experience because they don't look at it as having as much quality because there's no money attached to it, or they don't see the importance of the energy or the
right.
information that is coming through unless they're paying for it. And that is so important to have that energy exchange. And that was one thing that my Reiki teacher told me when I was getting my Reiki training years ago. She's like, it's important that there is some kind of energy exchange, no matter what,
Yeah,
because they won't appreciate the sacredness of what they're being given if there isn't some kind of energy exchange. And so it's so important to see it both ways.
yes, it
But
is.
obviously people in life overlook that they also are required to give.
Yeah,
It's like, if you want the energy to move, if you want the energy to flow, if you want to feel connection to Mother Earth or to the elementals or to the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom, then there has to be some form of reciprocity or act of respect out of respect towards them. So it's
yeah,
like, I recognize you, I give thanks for what you give me,
right.
and I'm listening to you. I acknowledge the energy, the consciousness, and the wisdom that is in the different energies around me. And a lot of times too, when the way medicine people, they move into a space, for example, I remember when I moved into Torrey, and we talked about this when you moved into Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to connect with the ancestors of the land as well,
Yes,
to
yeah,
understand their culture, to understand their history, to understand them as a people, and to acknowledge them. And so, some form of reciprocity there is really important too, because it shows respect to the ancestors of the land. And our medicine men and medicine women did this for centuries, but this
right.
connection has been lost through modernization, and it needs to be brought back because we can't heal our planet if we don't connect in with our ancestors as well. So it's important to do that too.
Absolutely. I think along with that as well is when we're more mindful of the energy around us, we hold a greater respect, but it helps us feel
Yes.
more connected to life itself. Moving out to Georgia has been immensely different. We live by Altoona, which is it's a huge lake. And in this area, there's also the Etowah burial grounds. And there's
Mm.
just so much history in this area that when I got here, it was like every time I went for a drive by the lake, I was brought into this trance and I was deeply connecting into the energy of the people here and honoring that. And it wasn't until I was teaching one of my friends, Ash, we were doing a sand painting ceremony. I went by the lake, just like right on the shorefront, and I did a sand painting ceremony with her that I finally was able to like give. proper Aini or proper gratitude and thanks for the space that I have to be here and to
Mm-hmm.
learn and to feel the healing power of their tribe. And also the water being right by the lake all the time always brings such this sense of like just opens up gifts even more. And it's so beautiful. I think that's also what we're missing in the world is we get so worried like, oh, I can't go talk to nature. I can't go talk to the tree. Like my ancestors are dead. Why would they be in the land still? Like, why wouldn't they be? Their body was brought back into the soil of Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is connected. And so I do completely agree with that. And I just keep thinking also about when we had those ceremonies in Tori next to
Mm-hmm.
the portals. At one point, I had my drone and I wanted to get some footage there, but it was very clear quickly. They gave me like a 2 minute time
Yes.
span. And then all of a sudden, I was like, okay, we're done. And I was like, okay, I have to honor that. Like, I can't go forward. I can't push past it. Like, I just have to honor the land and honor the sacred space there because there
Yes.
is so much memory and wisdom and guidance that is carried in the land from our ancestors. It's just
Yes.
waiting for us to respectfully connect in with it.
Absolutely. And that evening, like we had a couple evenings, and
Uh-huh.
each evening was slightly different.
Oh, yeah.
When we first moved into that space, we connected in with the ancestors, there was a lot of resistance about doing sacred ceremony in that particular area. That was considered a sacred spot,
Yeah.
and there was uh, a major portals of energy and openings in that space, but there had also been a tremendous amount of wounding that had happened among the tribes
Oh,
of that region.
so much.
Yeah, and there was this energy of like of needing to honor and respect the ancestors of the land, to honor and respect the land itself and the creatures and the plants and the different things that were in that space. And we spent a majority of that time in the beginning um, giving reverence, showing respect and honor for the ancestors and for the land. And it's interesting because ancestors in the land, they will work with weather and wind and different elements to give you insight into. And I know from an outsider, this may sound crazy, but this is like, these are the different levels of connection that you can have
Yeah.
with the ancestors and with the land, but it will show you what it's feeling. And oftentimes we don't listen.
Yeah.
We push it aside and we disregard it and disrespect the Mother Earth, and we disrespect the ancestors. And so what we did is we spent a lot of time holding space for the ancestors after we created that sacred space, validating their presence with us, giving them respect and honor, and holding them space to share their stories and the energies and the experiences that were held in the land. And
Yeah.
doing that brought healing to the land. And the
Yes.
days after that, things just opened up for us in a bunch of different ways because it was recognized as respect and honor
Yeah.
and validation. And but it
Well,
makes sense, right? What brings
yeah,
healing to people the most? Holding space for them. Well, it's the same thing for the ancestors of where you
absolutely.
live, holding space for them to share their stories with you and listening.
And I just keep thinking too about the sacred ceremony we had with Dana, where we wanted to do a lot about feminine energy and healing that when she was with us. And we had been delivering messages or just like connecting into different women who were showing up, and we were just allowing the space of honoring each of them who was showing up. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, the fire just died out. Do you
Yep.
remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, I
Okay,
guess we're
it's
done.
done.
And
Mm-hmm.
instantly, like when we said, okay, let's get ready to close up, it just started right again. No rhyme or reason. It just started right back. And we're like, okay, we still need to spend time honoring those who want to come forward and share messages and be in that space. And it kind of does sound like you're saying, like, What? That's crazy. But when we give ourselves permission to tap into that space, to really embrace that medicine that we hold, like we are connected to the land. We are connected to
Yes.
our ancestors. There's not a separation. There may be this veil of forgetfulness or this veil of physicality, but our souls are still connected. And when we can give honor and strength in a way that doesn't mean, oh, I deserve this. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
deserving of this because no relationship, no physical relationship that anyone has, if someone's like, I deserve this and this and this and doesn't ever give back, you become resentful or you cut that whole energy off. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a law of the universe. Like that really is this lay of the land is like when we give, we receive. But if you're not
Mm-hmm.
giving and or if someone's just taking and taking and taking, at some point there's no energy to keep giving to somebody. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
finding that flow, it's that infinity sign, it's that yin and that yang. And if you think about it, like positive and negative, light and dark, yin yang, masculine, feminine, right? It's this balance between both, which just shows the cycle and the pattern that is a truth that will be here long after we're gone and was here long before we were here as well.
Yeah. And a lot of people, you're right, they've disconnected to that connection. They've become numb to it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And as a result, and this is what the indigenous people talked about for hundreds of years, are like, you can't become disconnected to, you know, the consciousness of Pachamama, Mother Earth, because when you do that, she becomes sick.
Yeah.
Because you're meant to be a steward, you're meant to be in relationship to her energy while you're here. And it shows up in our environment, it shows up in our atmosphere, and you see all of the pollution, the different things that are manifesting as a result of that disconnection. And so in order to bring the planet back to balance, but also our bodies back
Mm-hmm.
into balance, this is so, so important because we need each other. This is not a one-sided thing where, you know, Pachamama has all the power or we have all the power. It goes both ways. We need each other in this life to establish balance and well-being. And so, of course, we are spirits in a physical form, but our bodies are representations of earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes too, the way that we feel about Mother Earth will show up in our bodies as well. It's kind of interesting because when you reestablish this relationship and you're engaging in reciprocity between Mother Earth and this connection and this respect, you automatically not only treat your planet better, but you have this desire to treat yourself better and to
Mm-hmm.
use her medicine that was created to heal the body and the mind and the spirit. So there's this deep reverence and respect for her medicine. And that just, again, I'm just makes your life so much more beautiful and healthier and balanced all the way around. So I feel like this is such a mind shift, you know, being able to really talk about reciprocity is so important. And it's not just our planet, it's not just in relationship. You give, you get what you give. If that balance is not there, eventually there's a disconnect, right? You can't
Right.
have healthy relationship if there isn't a balance between the giving and the getting and the energy that goes back and forth, the energy exchange that we have with each other or with our planet. But people don't really recognize that reciprocity also is connected to our homes. And I love the book Root and Ritual. We
Mm.
have both read that book, and it's such a fantastic
So,
book.
so good.
Yeah. And she talks about the soul of a home. Like, do you take time when you move into a new space to not only connect with the ancestors of the land, but do you take the time to connect with the soul of the home? And I am such a firm believer in this because I love creating space, a sacred space, and energy. And
Mm-hmm.
my desire is that when you walk in my home, you feel hugged, like you feel like the energy is hugging you, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that's one of the things that I love to do is I go into a home and say, how does the energy of this home want to be expressed though? Because each home has a
Oh,
different energy, it has a different way that it wants to express itself, that is influenced by not only Mother Earth, but also the souls that have lived there, and the wood that was put into the home, or the brick, or all the different, you know, things that you use to create a home has an energy imprint to it.
that's so fascinating because I also think that a lot of times when you go into older homes, and maybe this is intentional and maybe I'm wrong, let me know your thoughts, but it feels like sometimes when you go into an older home, I've had this thought of like, oh, it feels like it's built more sturdy, like there's more character to older homes than sometimes to newer homes. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it feels like newer homes are just kind of thrown up really quickly and easily, and it doesn't feel, and of course we can change that, but I'm just like noticing like it brings this, like it's like, oh, this is a new home, this is awesome, but there's something different about older homes and the character that
Absolutely.
lies within them. Like just even the door frame, like just the door frames around, it brings a different energy. It's very fascinating. I'm like,
I mean, you
"Oh,
think about the materials,
yeah.
right? They're
Right.
so much more authentic. They've come directly from the lumber yards back in the 1800s and early
Yeah.
1900s, up to a certain period of time. They came directly from the trees, the lumber yards. And
And the people who were harvesting it and putting it together were a lot more
yes,
mindful of what they were doing and how they were using it versus now it's like, oh, you just it just is kind of shows how like in
you can
life
feel a
we can,
difference.
yeah, and in life like it's also like we're kind of easily influenced in the outside world to almost like numb out in a lot of ways. And you can even kind of see that in the houses. I'm like shocked at this conversation right now because
Yeah.
really it's true is you can kind of see, and that doesn't mean people who have new houses or houses crappy. I'm not saying that, but there's just this difference and it's almost like putting more intention to put more of that
Yes.
character back into it. Oh, that's a fascinating thought.
Well, and also too, you think about psychometry, where information and energy is held within the furniture or the wood of a home or the floors. And a lot of people who are psychic and have that sensitivity can walk into a space and they can touch an object, and they'll get a download of the
Uh-huh.
history of that home, the people that lived there, the energies that influenced and made an impression into the woods, the different materials of the home, or objects that you hold will hold that information as well. And so I love being in historical places for that reason, because for me,
Mm,
it's like a kid in a candy store, because when I come into that space, those are the things I'm feeling. I'm feeling the energy of the history of the people that live there, the dynamics between the relationships. Sometimes I can pick up on as well,
right.
if they were good or maybe not so good. But being able to connect with the soul of the home, you can feel into what is needed in that space to bring it into balance and
Right.
peace, you know, either by doing a property cleansing or and blessing and sanctifying of your space, or maybe not rushing into changing everything right away too, like really feeling into it to see like what would be something that feels right to change at this point, like being mindful of what we do
Intuitively
when we
feeling it.
remodel, even like how do we honor the energy of the space in the best way we
Yeah.
can.
Well, and I'm even seeing in my mind, like I was just in Idaho visiting my sister who has a beautiful garden. It was so amazing to pull out carrots and have carrots for dinner right from
Mm,
the garden. And there's nothing that tastes better than that. But I'm even seeing like, if you think about even gardening, right, is
yeah.
you are putting forth that time and that energy. And at the end of the season, like they just barely tilled everything and even giving Mother Earth this blessing of like clearing everything out or offering new soil or different kinds of supplements or whatever it is that you can add into the earth for a prosperous springtime for the next year. But it's like giving gratitude, like thank you so much for all you've done. Like that also can bring a more abundant natural energy in your yards. And we
Mhm.
both have listened to the Earth Keepers podcast. I love her stuff. She does
Mhm.
shamanic practice all about the earth and honoring the earth and the spirits of the land. And she even talked about how in her yard, and she has this big plot of land in different areas, she's been blessing the land and just talking to the land and thanking Mother Earth for everything there. And all of a sudden, new medicinal herbs are growing that she never planted, that are just popping up. And because she's been honoring the land and tending to the land, not even meaning for anything to grow. And yet, Mother Earth has given medicinal plants that are like, where'd they come from?
That is amazing. Yeah. And it made me think it's like when we connect in with the land that we live to, I think it's so important to connect in with the natural medicinals that grow
Yes.
in your region, because you can build a first aid apothecary with the herbs that grow in your region, and your body will respond to those medicinals in such a better way. They'll be able to receive the medicinal properties in such a better way. Your body will naturally accept the medicinal properties of your region a lot easier than it will if it's taking something that is not grown in your region. So
Yeah.
even that is really important to look at. It's like, what a way to honor the land again. Like, what is it? Who are the ancestors that lived here? But also, what are the natural medicinal plants that grow in my
Yeah.
region? And how can I build an apothecary for my home that honors and respects that? Or if they don't grow on my property, maybe I can grow those particular medicinal things around my property. Or if I live in an apartment, put them into pots and put them, in my living room on the corner. But it's a
Yeah.
way to give to Mother Earth, to plant her seeds, to grow beauty, to show respect, and to use her medicine and allow that wisdom to move in your body, into your cells and of your body, to allow it to change you on some level, to give you information, to connect you with Mother Earth. It's just a beautiful relationship that we can strengthen in our lives to improve the quality of our lives, to bring in more beauty.
Yeah.
So I think reciprocity is a key core teaching for this reason. This is why it's so important to shamanic wisdom,
Yeah.
because once you understand the energy of reciprocity, then you realize that, it's important to give. It's not just important to take, but it's
Yes.
also important. It's like once you start engaging in a respectful exchange of energy, you also recognize what other energies are maybe not
Hmm.
as healthy or as respectful. And it gives you an opportunity to stand up for yourself and to engage in more balanced relationships
Yeah.
all the way around.
Well, and the last thing I want to bring up before we bring this podcast to a close is also I'm laughing because when you're talking about honoring the land and planting medicinals that grow in that area, and this will all bridge together. When I moved here, there were ferns everywhere, and Fern was my grandma's name. I love ferns. I probably will get a tattoo of fern. I've been looking at them. I just love ferns
I
so
do too.
dang much. So for my birthday, my husband brought me home a fern. And I was so dang excited. I was like, this is gonna be awesome. So I put him out on my porch, and I didn't really take much time to learn about how to tend to a fern. So first of all, I was like, oh, I'll just hang it up here like I've seen all the other plants be hung up. And I would be doing readings, and he was like right outside my window, and I could just feel him like yelling at me, like, this is not where I want to be. And so I literally had to stop in the session and be like, I'll be right back. And I had to take him off of the hanging thing because he was so angry.
Yeah, it's
So
too
then I
hot.
just put him on the ground, and he was in the sun most of the day. And I was like, oh, most plants need sun. Why wouldn't they need sun? I'll just keep watering him. No, a fern likes to sit on the ground in the shade
In
by
the
the
shade.
trees as far and as close to the shade as possible. So finally, we have this cute little lady underneath us in this apartment right now. And she has this beautiful little garden outside of her door. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go put this fern because he was dying by her stuff and I'll water him, she'll take care of him. And I felt so defeated. I was like, why didn't I know all of this? Why didn't I take better care of this plant? And I was feeling bad about myself. And I'm like, man, I am the worst medicine woman. I can't even keep a fern alive. Like, just so heavy. And so I leave it down there. And the next day I come to water him. And this lady had taken him into her porch, right against the back of it, right against in the shade. And now he's like flourishing and growing. And I
Yes.
didn't even let her know that I left him there because I was so ashamed.
But
Like,
you know what? I
it
mean,
was
it's
so
still
shameful for me.
it was a learning experience. I mean, that's the thing is that like you felt the energy and we
Yes.
have been conditioned to think that you can't talk to plants, that you can't feel a connection of energy. So it's like in the beginning phases of like really establishing that strong connection,
Uh-huh.
we have to remind ourselves that that is real, that that's not something that we're making up in our heads or whatever. And so what did you learn from that? It's like he was telling you, it's like, look, I'm too hot, like I'm
I'm
not
too,
supposed to
yeah.
be in the sun, I need to be in the shade, I don't want to be here, take me down, this is not where I want to be.
And now
Doesn't
he's
like to be up
flourishing.
high, doesn't
Yeah.
like to be up high. But you think about where it would be in the trees and the woods, that they're nestled on the bottom of the ground and next to the trees in the shade.
Under the
And so
treetop.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we have to pay attention. It's like there has we've just been groomed to not pay attention
Yeah.
and to discount the energy that we're feeling and hearing inside of us. And so now I know you'll never do that again. It's like if I'm feeling,
Uh-huh.
I understand that that is real, that plants can connect with us, they can communicate with us. In fact, they'll scream at us at times.
Oh, yeah. I had to stop my session to go help the poor guy. And he still
Yeah.
was mad at me.
Yeah.
And even Curtis could feel him yelling at him too. He's like, I don't know what's up with this plan. I'm like, me neither. But I think also in that space too is there
That's
are a lot of
awesome.
people who are wounded or who give and feel like they've given to other people, they've given their souls, and then they're wounded or they're burned or
Mm,
they're thrown away or what they did didn't matter. And I think that's also part of this human journey is when I finally have a backyard, like, heck yeah, I'm going to put a garden in and I'm going to spend so much dang time studying about how to keep that garden going because I don't want my whole garden yelling at me like Mr. Fern was, right? But at
mm-hmm.
the same time, like we came here to experience all things, and not all of this give and take is going to always be satisfying. We are going to have
Yeah.
those times where we do get wounded, or maybe we're the ones wounding other people. But when we can sit with ourselves and we can connect back into that life force energy, that heart-centered medicine, it's going to help us to see the lessons in those times, but also allow that to be a defining moment of growth versus something that
Yes.
shuts us down. And when I met with you, Candace, I've talked about this many times. I was at the point where I was willing to shut down all my spiritual gifts, my connection to God, because I was so wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the space of, no, it's time to sit with that and to be with that. And I didn't have to have sessions for a while. I was just giving to myself to then be able to give to others. But I think also in those times when maybe you do give over in abundance or you give to people who aren't willing to receive it and it's wounding, it's okay to have those because you can also sit with that and see the discernment. Yeah, maybe I felt like I shouldn't have done that, but I pushed forward anyways.
Well, and
Or
oftentimes, like you think about wounding, sorry to interrupt and
no, no,
I'll
no, you're great.
finish that.
No,
Well,
that's
you
all.
think about like wounding, we're wounded oftentimes because of what it symbolizes. It's not even so much what happened, because somebody can have that exact experience and there can be so many different perceptions of that
Mhm.
experience, even the most horrific things that happen. But it's what it symbolizes for us that creates the wounding. And so sitting with that shadow and sitting with the wound and really allowing that to come forth in a sacred space of compassion and curiosity. That's why I love the Kuan Yin card and the teachings of Kuan Yin. She's like, can you sit with someone's pain or your own pain with an energy of compassion and curiosity? Because that is what brings forth the healing. It's holding space for yourself.
You do love Kuan Yin.
I do. I feel a
Yeah.
major connection with Kuan Yin.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with reciprocity too. And like we think about, are we giving more than we're receiving? I would bet almost anything that a lot of people who feel that way, though, are still not recognizing what they are being given. And so they have a hard time receiving love. They have a hard time feeling those connections. And exploring that energy of why that is in that space, which reciprocity will teach you, because in order for you to give reciprocity or Aini or a beauty offering, it's not even so much what you're giving that really matters. It's what it symbolizes. I mean, you could be creating a little rose circle like we did up, we went hiking up at Donut Falls. We made a little tiny sacred fire with some resin that we burned that smelled really good. And we surrounded it with rose petals. And it's like, okay, is this really giving something that Mother Earth really needs to thrive? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it's what the energy was. It was our energy behind it, and what that symbolized as a form of appreciation for her beauty, for her medicine, for providing us everything that we need in this human experience, our food, our water, our shelter, all those things. And honoring her for her agreements with humans, with us. But it's what it symbolized that gave it power.
Right.
And so I feel like really honoring and reflecting, like if you feel that you're always giving and you're not receiving, to really ask yourself, at the core of this, do I really recognize in all the different ways that I'm being given love? I just have a hard time receiving it.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. That's so true. Yeah.
That's why gratitude's so important, because it opens up the receiving part of our heart chakra, so we can get that energy flow to move through the heart chakra in a proper way, where there's a balance between the giving and the receiving energy.
Yeah.
Reciprocity is that same energy of gratitude, because you're giving gratitude, you're honoring the ancestors, you're honoring the land, you're honoring the soul of your home. You're giving Aini, an offering of love and gratitude, and it opens up that flow and energy exchange to receive as well. So even though you're giving, you're actually opening yourself up to receive the full blessings of the energy that you're engaging with.
That is so beautiful. So many good points, so many things to think about. And I'm so grateful that we could talk again. It just feels so good to have you here again.
Oh, I
and
feel
these
the
conversations,
same, soul
I just
sister.
love you so flippin' much.
We have some strong medicine together.
Yes, it's so beautiful.
It's so fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining, and I hope those who listened, really this resonated with you in some way. And we know that as you give yourself permission to give Aini, to give an offering, to really offer that space of gratitude, that it will open up new magical powers and new medicine within. And so definitely take time. We encourage you to do that this week and to do that often. So anyway, Soul Tribe, thank you so much for listening. We just love you to pieces.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Thank you, Candace. Do you feel called to connect to your medicine within? Have you wanted to strengthen your spiritual gifts? Are you looking for ways to incorporate the sacred into your everyday life? Maybe do you want to have like-minded friends in a tribe who can connect with you? Modern Sage's Soul Tribe is dedicated to spiritual seekers like yourself who are embracing the medicine within. Now, in this tribe, we are going to be doing moon gatherings, amazing spiritual gift giveaways, connecting to a soul tribe, as well as hosting mystery school classes. If you are feeling called to connect to the Soul Tribe, I will leave a link for you in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to Modern Sages Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us online. Blessings.